We need to get more variety in our voice.
All right.
We need to get more all over the place instead of being down here all the time.
Hey guys, this is the podcast. We're talking about superheroes and yeah.
Did you say Subarus?
No, superheroes.
Oh.
Superheroes.
So Batman, Superman,
My favorite
Iron
superhero
Man,
is
Captain America,
the black one.
T'Challa.
I thought you were about to say. Did you say Chichanka?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Crossroads Conversations podcast. My name is Jack,
My name is Austin.
My name is Michael.
and we're back. It's been almost 6 months since the last episode. This is episode 7.
Yeah.
Seven?
Yeah,
I thought it was-
7. And
Dang.
our last one was in November of 2024.
Last year.
I haven't seen y'all since
I
last
haven't seen you
year.
since last year, man. Happy May 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, we were told we needed to say that.
Yeah.
We were told that we should say that. So, we're back, and what have we been up to this whole time?
Work.
Yeah, literally nothing. We have no excuse. We just have
Well, no. It's just been work.
Yeah,
But like we don't
In
work
life.
on work on Sundays though.
No.
But we do other stuff. Ooh.
we got some funny new bits, some new vocabulary since
Oh,
then.
Lord.
So many memes have come and gone since November of
Bombardillo
2024.
crocodilo.
Yeah, we're all in our tung sahur.
Shut up, please.
Oh my.
Yeah, Italian brain rot. We got some very popular memes that are very related to this episode. You got sea salt. Where's Omni-Man? Are you sure?
I don't know.
Are you sure?
He doesn't know. He hasn't seen it.
Any reference
This
they
guy
make,
doesn't
I'm-
watch Invincible.
any
So
reference that they make,
Michael and I
don't
are
know.
going to spend probably collectively 30 minutes of this podcast talking about Invincible.
Can we talk about like
And
Marvel?
he's never seen it. And
Because this guy refuses to watch.
I don't
it.
refuse.
he's
I'm
allergic
watching-
to Peak. And yeah, he hasn't
Bro's watching Dexter over
Dude, that's the
here.
best villain of all time.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch
Ooh.
a psychopath killer than Invincible.
Psycho killer.
Okay.
So, this episode is going to be on superheroes and villains, if you haven't gathered that from our conversation at the start.
Yeah.
So, who wins? Tung sahur.
Okay.
Crocodilo.
Those are not superheroes.
No, Tralala or Tralala, I think.
We're going to power scale Italian brain rot memes. No. We're talking about superheroes today. And dare I ask, why are we talking about superheroes when I was the person who came up with the idea? Why did y'all say yes to the idea of superheroes?
Because superheroes are fun.
Everyone
likes it. Yeah,
everyone
everyone
likes
likes
superheroes,
superheroes.
I think.
That in today's May the 4th, we can also talk a little
I
bit
guess it
about
is
Star
Superheroes
Wars.
Star Wars-
are kind of in Star Wars. At least villains.
Star Wars
kind
is
of,
superhero, hero and villain enough, you know?
At least like good and evil kind of thing.
Yeah. I think, I do think everyone likes superheroes. Like, if you like stories or movies at all, you have to like
Whether
heroes
it's
and
Marvel,
villains.
DC, freaking Star Wars.
Superheroes or
Yeah,
villains,
whatever.
either or.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, there's something innately desirable about heroes and facing off against evil that is like just rooted within human culture. And we'll talk about why we think that is later on.
Mhm.
But we won't jump the gun here, just bury the lead here. But so our first question. Well, let me pull up my notes app real quick,
Got it right here
and
as
I
well.
closed it out. Hang on.
First question is, what is your favorite superhero and villain combo?
What he said. Ditto.
Can I start it off?
Yeah, you can start off.
Okay.
It's the first time. I'm pretty sure it's the first time in 7 episodes, Austin has had an answer first
Oh my.
out of anyone.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
The Lego Batman and Joker combo is undefeatable.
You talking about the movie?
Yeah, the movie, like, and Lego
Oh, man.
Batman.
That movie is really good.
Like the villain, just of like how Joker hates him but also loves him.
Oh,
yeah,
Because he wants him to be his villain.
That's how
But,
it
like-
is in most Batman and Joker storylines, but
Yeah.
Joker doesn't make it as obvious.
But in that, because it's a kid show, it's like they're making it obvious and makes it like fun. So
Borderline gay for Batman.
No,
Okay,
it's
okay,
like it's
that's-
friendship.
It's friendship.
It's a bromance, you know.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, I think I like it because it's a very original take on the recipe, like the formula of good versus bad. Because I don't know, it's just funny to see it it's almost like a romantic drama.
Like
a
he's the good to
rom-com.
his evil,
Yeah.
whatever, and he's the evil to his.
They do steal like the rom-com formula and
Yeah.
then try it with the superhero movie. And also just the acting is hilarious. The jokes are actually funny in that movie. in
Dude,
my
for
opinion.
real.
That opening scene is probably one of the most iconic opening superhero scenes in my opinion. I love that. I love that.
Batman.
Always
That
bet on
scene.
black. I sound a little bit like Batman today. I'm almost sick. So if my voice is annoying, that's why. But that's a good answer actually. I didn't even think about that. I like that one.
Because there's so many options, but that's just like, I don't know.
Nothing
It's just
against-
different. It's just different, I guess.
Nothing against Pokemon, Batman. I'm sorry, that was bad.
There's no laws. There's no laws against the Pokemon.
All right.
Okay. Michael, do you have an answer for us?
I got quite a plethora of things I can think of, but I gotta choose one. My mind's going blank, is what I'm saying.
The first time we've worded this question, we said in a movie. Maybe that was like a clarification at the end, but we decided just to say in general because there's a lot of really good stuff out there that is not movies and
Video games.
yeah,
And
there's video games, there's
shows
comics,
even, I guess you
shows,
wanna- yeah.
books, all that stuff. There's a lot of options, you know. And I also am with you on that. There are so many options that I want to say are like the best, but I guess I'm not arguing about the best. I'm arguing about my favorite ones. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think without a doubt, one of my favorite superheroes has always been Spider-Man. I'm a big Spider-Man head. I like Spider-Man. But I think honestly, of all of the Spider-Man variations, without a doubt, one of the best still in my mind is Miles Morales and the Prowler. Like that first movie when it first came out was so groundbreaking and
Mhm.
popular. I love the dynamic of having Miles know that his uncle is the Prowler, and have the Prowler not know that his like one of his best friends basically his
I kind of forgot about that.
It's one of his biggest mentors.
yeah his nephew is the exact person he's been
His uncle.
he's told to kill, right? And I think it's even more interesting when you get to the second movie. Spoiler alert, but this movie came out like a year ago, 2 years ago. So if you don't know, it's your fault.
Was it 2
Well-
years ago?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
The next movie was supposed to come out like last year, so they
They better hurry
Dude,
up,
we're
bro.
gonna, be,
better get
we're
on
gonna
it, man.
have like
I'm so mad
a
about
wife
that.
and kids by
I-
the time they come out.
I
with that.
love those movies, and now they're taking forever to make them. But when you get to the alternate universe at the end of the second movie, and you find out that Miles is the Prowler now, right? Like that dynamic of showing what Miles would have been if it wasn't for Spider-Man, if it wasn't for the spider bite, you know? And I don't know, I just thought it was a really interesting storytelling dynamic. And for sure, that's one that always sticks out to me when I think about superheroes. I think Spider-Man in general was always very popular, like the Peter Parker. And then I think after the newest Spider-Man movie, where they brought back all the old Spider-Man, I think we kind of realized we were beating a dead horse at some point, retelling Peter Parker's story like three
Yeah.
different times with three different people. Don't get me wrong, they're all pretty good. They always have their pros and cons, but
Yeah.
I think pound for pound, the most original and like most creative storytelling for Spider-Man recently has been in the Spider-Verse movies. And I don't know, I just really enjoy those movies. Those have always been easily part of my top 10 movies of all time. So those are great. Okay, now you can talk about Invincible.
Only one I can think of right now is Invincible. The dynamic where, Mark he looks up to his father heavily in the first season, and he doesn't know who he really is until, what was it, episode 7 or 8? I don't remember.
The
which-
last episode of, well, no, not even that. Later on in the season, maybe the second to last episode of the first season.
Yeah, but like, he's always saying, "I want to be like him. I want to be like my dad," and then
Like him.
like him. Yeah, it's a good song. And then he finds out what the Viltrumite Empire is really all about, and then he's like trying to separate himself from him as much as he can. Yet he still is a lot like his father. He starts you know, the parallelism. Is that how you say it? Parallel.
Parallels.
The parallels.
Parallelogram.
No, I'm like parallelism.
Technical
Parallelism.
word, yes.
That's what I'm talking about, or the parallels between him and his father, were pretty. I can't think of the word.
I think the debate of Mark and Omni-Man being the best hero-villain combo, you have to. It actually prompts a lot more discussion about, is Mark really a hero and is Omni-Man really a villain?
Yeah.
You know? There's a lot of different topics you could cover in that show, and I think a big one is like nature versus nurture. You know, I feel like we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I think that show particularly has a commentary on what parts of humanity is made by our culture and by what we teach our children, and what part of it is nature. You know, because later on in the seasons, you see Omni-Man kind of reorienting his life back to what the humans teach rather than the Viltrumites. Meanwhile, you see Mark leaning more into his nature, his Viltrumite nature, and becoming more villain-like as the series progresses.
Yeah.
And I think it's different in the comics, a lot. Like, the comics are very different from the show. I think the first season was pretty faithful to the comics, but the more we've gone on, the more it's adjusted things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the changes have been better from what I've heard. But I think the show has an interesting look into the psyche of like nature versus nurture, because I don't know. It's one of those questions we'll never leave a solid answer to, or you can always just say both. But yeah, I think they're good villains for sure.
Yeah.
They're both good villains and both good heroes in a way. So
Then like the JPEG,
you don't know
I
what
don't know.
Invincible
I
is.
have no idea.
all the JPEG animation that happens. It's so
Are
funny.
you sure?
But yeah, I like him.
What are some more like not as popular heroes and villains that you guys like? Because I can name a few that are like ones that aren't traditional like superheroes and supervillains people like, in my opinion. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender with Aang and Ozai and Emperor Ozai. Like, I think the whole show is exceptional for sure, but I would not be the first to say that. I would be like the 50 billionth person to say that. And like, I've always liked that show because it has so much focus on being a pacifist. Yeah, like relationship, about like actually a hero that genuinely doesn't want to hurt people, like at all, right? Like, you'll have heroes that say that they don't want to hurt people, like Spider-Man and Batman have a no-kill rule, and then you see the games. Have you seen like the Spider-Man animations in the games where he like hits
Dude, that
people,
would literally
he like hits
someone,
people in
right?
the head with like manhole covers, and you're like, that bro is not living.
Yeah.
He is dead
He
for
just knocked
sure.
out for a while, you know.
He's
Man,
bro's
I'm
not.
dead.
He's been knocked out forever. But
No.
I feel like when you watch Avatar, it's like very obvious that he does not want to hurt anyone, and I always thought that was interesting. Even his powers himself, like air bending, is like such a soft. It's such a non-violent thing, you know. When you
Mhm.
have like earth bending and fire bending, where it's like they're hitting people with rocks or burning them, and then you have just like
Or
air,
water.
you know.
like-
Yeah, it just everything else is more violent, and then you have the airbenders that are like the natural pacifists of their world. I don't know. I just thought I've never seen a show make a commentary on like pacifism and actually stick to it. Like with Invincible, where he was like, "I'm not gonna kill people. I'd never do that," and then
Bro's
he's
killed,
like killing by proxy like billions of people because he won't kill the one bad guy. Or like I've always had this gripe about Batman, where he just like leaves the Joker alive to escape for the 50th time and then go kill more people, and it's just like, how many people have died because Batman doesn't kill one person? You know.
Yeah. It's a moral dilemma.
It's like it's definitely the trolley problem, in a way. You know. I feel like we've also talked about the trolley problem before.
Oh yeah.
I would do it. I would pull the lever.
Psychopath
And then-
over here.
When the train's halfway across, I pull it again, and then it drifts across both tracks and kills the
I've seen that one.
or you just don't fully turn it, so it just derails.
and then it kills everyone on the train.
No, okay. That's not what I meant.
But like, what are other superheroes and villains? I know you guys probably have several that you're thinking of.
Ninja
But-
Turtles.
Ooh, now we're getting somewhere.
The combo, of at least for the heroes, like I guess you would say call him a hero, but like between the four and how different weapons, like I guess like the discipline they all have, it's like the same but different because with those different weapons they're using and how they're trained. I guess I don't know. I think it's just a good.
Well, the weapons that they have, each weapon is like the opposite of what their personality is. So you have Donatello, right? He is like the most smart and creative person in the group.
Mm-hmm.
But he's handed a stick. What are you going to do with a stick? You got to be creative with it. And then with Raphael, he's very strong and offensive, but he gets handed very defensive. What?
Size.
Yeah, size. Very defensive weapons. They're not pointy. I mean, they're pointy, but they're not sharp.
They take precision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mikey, he's very all over the place.
Goofy,
unfocused,
very
goofy.
Yeah.
Goated.
But he gets handed nunchucks that require a lot of focus, a lot of practice, and not. They're not easy.
Discipline.
Yes, discipline.
I've tried to play the nunchucks before and I've hit myself
You
in the
just,
head with them.
you just end up hitting yourself most of the time.
Just cracked the thing across my head so many times.
And then Leonardo, he gets handed actual swords because he's probably the most mellow of the group. I'd say.
Yeah, he's the leader. He's like, he doesn't want to hurt people. Like, I think Leonardo's always been like more
had a lot of
he's
self-control.
way more like self-control, more focused on being good. Like, I don't know if you guys ever, like, the most popular TMNT shows, I would say, like the Nickelodeon show, that very popular animated one.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the brand new movie that came out recently, which was really good. I loved that movie.
I've seen part of it, but not.
I have not seen it.
It was very good. They actually were like teenagers in this one. They like hired actual teenagers to play them. They acted like kids. A lot of people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it. But there was one TMNT movie. I guess it was kind of like a series because they made a couple movies on this one, but it had this very specific, like, much grittier, much darker art style. That
I've seen a couple of clips.
you've probably seen some clips, and there's a very distinct part of that movie that I think of where Raphael and Leonardo fight because Raph is like very passionate about hurting people and like violence. Leonardo is very focused on precision and like being as much peacekeepers as they can, And in that movie also, Raph, like, bless you.
Thank you.
He like ditches his original weapons for like these like ball and chains that are like way more violent and like hurt people a lot worse. And I always thought that's always been one of the, okay, I wouldn't say one of the best, but a really, really good scene from the movie is that fight scene.
I gotta rewatch those.
They're really good. You should watch that movie together. That one's fire. But I love TMNT. I grew up watching that Nickelodeon show
I've seen like
a lot.
Have you seen like the really old one?
Like
It's like
people in costumes.
Not costumes.
No, it's still a cartoon.
No, it's
but
not cartoon.
like
It's
the
a
90s.
it's a live action one.
You know, like the movies.
Yeah, it's in the movies.
It's like Megan Fox in it.
Does it? I don't know.
This
I
is
don't
the one where it
know.
looks.
There's
I don't
a
know.
one-
Dude. I haven't seen it in
realistic.
forever.
It's made by Michael Bay,
I don't remember.
and it
honestly.
has Megan Fox in it as April O'Neil, and it has pretty like good VFX, I would say. But the art style is so bizarre. It's funny when you talk about TMNT because everyone just calls it TMNT or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then
Teenage Mutant.
no one remembers the year that these movies came out, so you can't just be like, "Oh yeah, TMNT from 2013." Everyone, you have to like show them a
I think it
picture,
was
like this one is the one I'm
26
talking about.
15, I think it came out.
I want to look up what it.
14.
I want to look up what I think
Pull
you're
up the
talking
clip,
about.
Jamie.
Jamie, pull up the clip. Did you guys watch TMNT when you were a kid, or was this just a thing that you
Oh, yeah.
The movies
generally?
more. I think I watched a little bit of the cartoons, but
I
more
watched
of
the
the
cartoon.
movies.
Dude, I was so invested in the 2013 series, the really popular one from Nickelodeon. It was so good. And then it just took a downfall when they started going to space and all that. Yeah, that
No,
one.
it's an older one than that. Look up.
This is the one I'm talking about.
That one?
Wait, I'm trying to. I played a game also. There's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game that was Heat.
This is the newest one, and it has like that. It has like an Into the Spider-Verse style to it. It's
Mhm.
really rad. I love that movie.
I'm trying to see.
Screen Age over
This
over
one?
here.
I'm trying to. I think it was that one. When did that
From
come out?
1990.
Wait, what's
Yes,
that?
that one.
Let me see
I'm
it.
pretty sure it's that one.
This looks familiar. I
Oh,
feel like
yeah,
I've seen
like a
this.
really-
those are people in costumes.
I honestly do remember, dude. I watched it when I was.
When he was a
younger
kid, he was
lot.
like, "This VFX is so real."
That's every game.
Let me see if we
It's
can
also
find
like
pictures
almost
from
kind of
this.
like, kind of can relate to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle because like, we don't always get what we want, you know. Like we
Mm.
want. Some people like he wants violence, but he doesn't get it, you know.
Yeah. Or like, I want you, but I can't.
Okay, buddy.
What?
What?
Okay, buddy.
Cut that out.
I think TMNT is cool because it has a character for everyone.
Yeah.
Like well, let me just lead into this question because we can talk about this a little bit here. Our next question is, what superheroes do we relate to? And I think the thing that makes TMNT so likable is that everyone can relate to one of the turtles to some degree.
Or
Right, like-
what was her name again?
April?
April.
There was also, in the really old ones where they're in costumes, there was a part where there was a girl turtle, and she had like teal.
Really? I don't remember that.
I don't know what she's called, but it was. I remember seeing part of that. So, but like, I feel like that very common. Like, I'm certain at some point in our high school career, we walked into small group at one point, and the opening icebreaker question was, "Which Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle do you relate to?" or something, because like everyone has like the one that they like, you know.
Actually,
like,
yeah.
Everyone has a favorite. Everyone has one they like, and it's usually one they relate to, or want to be like, you know.
I think my favorite was Mikey.
I think Mikey's easily the most popular one.
That's
Because
probably
he's the funniest.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only say that because I had the same name or similar name, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I like that one. But I've actually, in recent years, I've grown to like Donatello a lot more.
Donnie's cool.
Yeah.
I think Donnie's the most underrated in my opinion. Even I think a lot of people don't say Raphael because it's almost a bad look.
Yeah.
If you say Raphael, you're like just exposing.
Which one?
The angry one, the hothead.
I can't like I can almost not like in a bad way, but like I'm
Yeah.
like wanting to kill people, but like okay, calm down.
Okay,
But that thing was like
Turns to blowing up on people.
not that much, but like I can get angry like pretty fast.
I
Not
think-
fast, but like I can get
I
don't
think
know.
certain.
I can take it from all four of them, like certain pull things from all four of them. I feel like
I also
so.
think there are certain portrayals of Raph that are much better or much worse than others.
Yeah.
Because there are certain ones where he actually is like learning to control his anger and actually becomes a very like well-tempered and good warrior, where you have other ones that show like where Leonardo is supposed to be like the golden boy. He's like oldest child in a way.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know if he technically is, but like he gets that vibe. Where he's like he's the leader. He's the most naturally talented and stuff. But like it shows his weakness. I think that parallel between the two is very good. And I think a good portrayal of Raphael is one that shows him not just as the hothead, but someone who actually learns how to control their anger and use it for good. You know,
Yeah.
That's me, bro. I'm trying to learn how to control my anger, bro.
and it's a good thing. It's not like anger is necessarily.
I mean, they all have anger issues, and like they all have the same issues. It's just
Yeah.
different levels.
They
of
all
the same-
reflect-
reflect.
Yeah.
They all reflect a natural level of. I think in boys, there's a natural desire for violence in a way that there's a lot of debate.
I
People
know.
will tell you it's about video games, but I think it's because for like 2,000
I have
years,
two little
we've-
brothers, and dude,
They'll just beat you up.
fight each other, bro.
literally, they'll
Like,
just. It's not
they're
even like
boys.
play fighting. It's just like literal throwing punches level, you know.
Yeah.
And people would be like, "Oh, it's because of video games," you know. But I think it's because in all of human history, young men have been used to fight every war. Right?
Dude.
Like
Mhm.
every war has been fueled by the blood of young men, and I think
remember-
that reflection shows up in that culture, like that exposure of young boys to violence, that
That-
makes them think that's a desirable trait. You know.
that, and even now, like whenever I go to a sleepover or something, there's a good chance I'll end up just wrestling a dude just because it's fun. Like it's first off, I don't have
Fair enough.
brothers, so I don't really get to roughhouse with any of my
That's fair.
siblings. So like
That's understandable.
because if I were, I'd probably hurt him because
I think a lot of guys have an experience at one point or another where they hurt someone on accident.
Yeah.
Never like actually wanting to hurt someone, but you just do because,
Jokingly.
huh?
Like jokingly, kind of.
Yeah, like you do something like play fighting or like roughhousing, and then you end up actually hurting someone, and you're like, oh shoot, you know. It kind of makes you realize like I have more strength than I know what to do with, you know.
Mm.
And I think that's an interesting topic that could be talked about for TMNT because each character reflects that natural tendency for violence in a different way. And Raph is just the one that is most notable for that because he just is the most like the worst at controlling it, right? But in reality, every character has a tendency to violence.
Oh boy, if Mikey loses it,
Well,
Oh,
have you
boy.
seen have you heard about The Last Ronin? Do you know about that?
I think
I
I've
heard-
seen clips
You
about
heard
it.
about this?
Yeah.
It's a comic series that they made where all three of the TMNT die, and
Yeah.
one of them takes all their weapons and becomes the last Ronin, and goes on this like killing spree. But the thing is that you don't know which turtle it was until the very end, where you learn it's Mikey, where he turned into this like huge, like almost like Batman level violence and anger villain. You know,
I think maybe past Batman.
Past Batman, people died guaranteed. But like, I always thought it's almost when you think about it for long enough, you're like, yeah, I guess it makes sense for it to be Mikey. Like that's the most interesting story to tell.
Yeah.
Because he's such a goofy, fun
Because he's
guy.
such the goofy guy, and then he
turns
turns into this very serious character. Yeah. But like, I think it's still very good because I think that storytelling is very interesting. Seeing that reflection of like the character who's always like, oh, I'm just the comic relief, you know,
Mhm.
and then he turns into this villain, you know, in a way. So, I think TMNT is exceptional, and I like Leonardo the most because I always want to be a leader, whether it's good for me or not. Like that desire to do so, even if I'm not really equipped to do it, or like, if I'm the right fit for the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I've always admired the desire to like stand up and lead people, and I never realized how much comes with that. You know, I think that's also part of Leonardo's story,
Responsibility.
learning the responsibility of leadership, and that when things go wrong, it's your fault. You know, like all of the credit, none of the blame. You know, I mean that's not necessarily always true or shouldn't always be true, but in a way, that is kind of part of what his arc is learning that leaders have to get a lot of power, and they get a lot of, you know, you can have a strong desire for it. You also have to respect the consequences of that, of
Mhm.
Great
taking.
power comes with great responsibility.
He said the thing. He said the thing. No, I just like Leonardo too because he's just funny. I thought he was pretty funny too.
The thing.
The thing? He's the thing.
Relatable.
I'm just gonna put a picture of the thing on screen.
Yeah.
All right, so let's continue with our question about heroes we relate to. I feel like TMNT. Whoever brought that up, you're a goat for that one because I love TMNT. I always have had like a hidden obsession
Glazed
with it.
getting glazed.
Like I feel like a lot of people like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, but it doesn't get talked about because it's not like it's not released
It's not
a lot. You know, and
consistently
it's not-
popular like Spider-Man is released every single year. you
Yeah.
know? But like, it's gone through so many renditions that have been so different from one another, and it's almost like there's always.
It's like Transformers though too. You know.
Yeah,
There's like
people-
so many different ones.
This guy loves Transformers. People have always liked TMNT, but each generation has a different one they relate to. So like our
Yeah.
generation's like the Nickelodeon show. That's like what we reflect
Yeah.
mostly. I mean, you've seen some of the older ones, but like, and then like
Almost all.
people slightly younger than us might know the Michael Bay movies, and those people probably don't like TMNT as much because those movies weren't spectacular. But some of the fight scenes were good.
Oh, you know another good hero and villain, bro? Scooby Doo. Would you
Who's
consider
the
that-
villain?
There's multiple villains, bro.
Raggy. Or no. What's
Have you guys seen the-
Scrappy Doo?
You seen the
There's so
theory
many-
that Scooby Doo is just an alien? Because he's a dog that can talk.
I don't.
It's a
And-
cartoon.
I know. That's the theory.
Let me hear you out.
He and I think it was like Avocado Animations. I don't remember his YouTube name, but
Mhm.
he made this video where Scooby
Uh-huh.
is an alien, and Velma, for whatever reason, always questions, why is this dog able to talk? And every time that happens, then everyone else starts catching on. They're like, wait, this Scooby is kind of weird, like not a normal dog. And then they realize what he really is. He's just an alien. He kills everyone and then restarts the universe. That's why every
What in the Men in Black is this?
that's why every Scooby Doo like show like is
It's the
different.
same idea, but just
But it's
replayed.
yeah.
I didn't know that was a Scooby lore,
And it's
bro.
just
Dang.
Scooby behind it all.
I have a friend who's like obsessed with Scooby Doo. I'm gonna ask him about this. See if he's ever heard of it. He's gonna
It blows mine.
He's gonna give me a hour long explanation.
But it's
of
kind of
this.
hero villain thing, you know? 5 heroes, or yeah, 5.
Yeah, I think Scooby Doo is pretty. It's
Some are
like
goofy.
It's definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's a kid
it's so
show.
goofy.
Yo. Oh, that was so bad. Cut that one out.
I'm clipping that and making that a soundboard on our Discord. I think Scooby Doo is very funny, and I also think. Did you guys see the live action movies?
Yes, those were
Dude,
heat.
so funny, like unironically funny.
Only thing
I cannot
can-
lie.
Only thing I can
Gosh.
think of from the movies, because honestly I haven't really seen them. I've just seen clips.
Hmm.
Only thing I can think of is when Shaggy turns into a chick. That once. It's so funny. Anyway.
Those movies are like fever dream though.
Oh yeah.
They're so bizarre. There's one that I watch frequently. It's the one about like Voodoo Island. Have you seen this one?
You were like sacrificing people?
Yes, they're like it's like literal like actual people dying,
I'm like, this is
and
a
then like the
kid's show?
spirits of people are like floating around in this like pot at the end, and I'm like, what is happening?
You know what movies are super like fever dream, but they're super nostalgic at the same time?
What?
Spy Kids.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
that
those
is-
movies are trippy.
Dude.
Oh, the thumb.
Whoever made
people.
whoever made that movie was on something, man. Movies.
But it's
Whoever
like
made those
four,
was
and then they
on
redid
something,
it with
bro.
new people.
Okay, wait, yeah, we don't
That
talk
one was
about
bad.
We don't talk about that. That's like
Yeah.
the there isn't a second Pacific Rim movie. There's only one. The second one doesn't exist.
I've never seen Pacific Rim. Never seen
Dude,
it. I was.
you're
my
missing
mom-
out
My
on
mom didn't
so
let me see it when it
much.
first came out. So
The storyline, don't look at the storyline, just action.
don't
It's
think.
just pure action.
Don't think about it. Just enjoy it.
Yes, it's one of those movies.
Like all the Transformers movies.
Yeah.
The Transformer, Michael Bay movies. The
They-
first one's like okay, and then it's just steeply downhill.
There's
after
like that
No,
show,
no, no,
too.
no, no. It go, 1 through 3, Age of Extinction, and The Last Night. It,
They made Optimus Prime a bad guy. For a little bit.
well, yeah, because he was mind controlled by what's her face.
Sentinel.
No, that's the third movie. Sorry,
He's the Transformers guy. I don't know these things,
I'm the
man.
I like
nerd.
Bumblebee.
Do you relate to Bumblebee?
Dude, that movie was good, though.
No, I can
Bumblebee movie.
speak.
Y'all watch that movie, the Bumblebee movie?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good.
That one was good.
I like that. The girl in it is the girl from the
Haley
Hawkeye
Stein.
show, and she
Yeah.
did Spider Gwen. She's actually a really good actor, in my opinion.
Is it Haley Steinfeld?
Yeah. And every time I mention her, my sister's like, "Oh yeah, she's married to this one dude," and I'm like, "Who is it?"
Okay.
She always mentions it because it's like this guy is like so random. I gotta look this up.
Some random dude.
Why
Dude,
do you like
okay.
Transformers though?
Why?
Cars.
Because of cars.
Well, maybe that's kind of what sparked me. I don't know. When I was younger, I watched those movies. They were super entertaining, and then I just grew to like it. I don't know.
Cars.
It,
Bro,
Oh,
Cars 2? Oh my
Haley
God.
Steinfeld is married to the Buffalo Bills quarterback, Josh Allen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's why she brings it up because that's so random of her to do
When you
that.
said Cars, though, like that Tow Mater hero, oh my gosh, dude. He's a hero in my book.
but Transformers, I don't know. The way they transform, it was cool.
The Michael Bay movies do the transforming really well.
Yeah, and they got rid of mass shifting for some people. You know what mass shifting is, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy. So you know in the cartoons when they would transform, but they would drastically change in size.
Mm.
Like Megatron turns into a handheld gun.
Yeah.
That's mass shifting. So it's like physically not possible in real life.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
But in the movies, they change it, except for Starscream because he would have been way bigger because F-22 is huge. But in movies, they mostly got rid of mass shifting, and so it's a lot
Like they're
more-
accurate to the size of the vehicle they are.
Yes. So Starscream should be like 50 feet tall, but he's
That's
like
rad,
he's
though.
like 30.
They should have made him really tall.
He's made to be huge,
But
but
it's just like LeBron.
they made him a Dorito
They
Because-
just make him a Dorito.
because he's just like
I will say I have always thought that the transforming in the movie is really cool, and like the technical aspects of it is insane. Like the actual VFX art of it, like
That's where most of the budget went.
I've seen
Definitely.
videos online about how detailed and intricate that
and
it
this came
was.
out in what 2007.
Yeah,
Bro, the downfall
Ridiculous.
of CGI though.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. That's actually that is a huge topic to talk about. The downfall of CGI.
I feel like we can talk about that. This is an episode about superheroes in Marvel. Okay, let's talk about why Marvel sucks now.
Woke.
But first, let's talk about the superheroes from Marvel that we like the most or relate to the most.
I mean, I think everyone can say Spider-Man.
Is it just that Spider-Man is that good?
I think we can relate because he has this he has so many just problems you can relate to, especially if you're
Yeah.
young, like school he's dealing with. He's a freaking superhero.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, that's a
Multitasking.
two-main one.
In
He's just
general.
doing so
In
many
general.
different things.
Well, I've always heard this story about when Stan Lee, actually there's a debate about who invented Spider-Man, but let's just say it's Stan Lee for the sake of the argument. And he talks about how when he was making Spider-Man, his main goal was to have a superhero that had personal problems.
I think I heard
Because
I've
up
heard
until
this.
then, every superhero was just the perfect man, never an issue. The only problems they encounter are superhero villains, other superhero related issues. But Spider-Man's the only one where his actual heroing, I guess you could say, he doesn't lose very often.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He usually gets beat up the first time he fights a villain, and then he comes back and wins.
He learns a lesson or something,
Yeah.
and then he'll come
But
back.
a lot of the issues that he fights in the comics and in the movies and everything is personal problems of him with his friends and with his family and with all these things.
Just trying to balance everything.
Yeah. And I think balance is that's the thing that people can relate to. Is no one feels like they have balance in life, I talked to my mom about this not too long ago, and she was like, is balance even a thing? Can anyone really actually have balance in life, right? Balance is so hard to
God,
obtain.
dude.
It's so well
Sorry.
it's
Yeah.
such a difficult thing to just can you make everything balanced in life?
Yeah.
When you have to work 40 hours a week, can you really balance that with life?
45.
45 hours
Plus.
to make a living you have to put a lot of hours in work, right?
Yeah.
So your work life balance can hardly be a thing, right? So I always thought Spider-Man was interesting because so many people say it's he's literally me, bro. But I think the only reason is not because it's any particular thing about him, but just because he's just so real and so I don't know. He just feels most relatable to because he actually has problems that other human beings do.
Mm.
It's not superhero problems, it's people problems,
Right.
But which Spider-Man's your favorite one?
Out of the three.
Out of any of Spider-Man rendition, which one's
I
your
mean,
favorite?
I don't know, because Miles Morales is so good. But if I'm going just live action, the three Spider-Mans, I don't know. I think Tobey Maguire is the best. I think Tobey Maguire is the best.
I haven't seen the Tobey Maguire one.
You haven't seen any of them?
I've seen parts of them, but I haven't actually
Sure.
watched them through. Because they came out before I was born.
Yeah, that don't matter.
And I was too young. My parents thought they were too scary for me. My parents saw a lot of movies. I didn't see Lord of the Rings until a couple years ago.
Dang.
I'm not even a Lord of the Rings fan.
Because my
I've
family
seen
thought
it.
the orcs were too
I've
scary,
seen it.
so I hadn't seen it. So I'm rewatching these old movies and enjoying them.
You
because
need to
I
watch
actually am
Tobey
old enough to
Maguire
enjoy them now,
Spider-Man.
So
You gotta watch.
I saw the Andrew Garfield ones though, and those have always been some of my favorites.
Those ones are good.
I've always thought, I think actually, if I had to say quality of portrayal of Spider-Man, I've always thought Tom Holland's is one of the best Spider-Man, where his Peter Parker and Spider-Man side are so genuine. But the only reason he's not my favorite is because the movies aren't very good. The storylines for those movies are not very good. In my
Well,
opinion.
they're just kind of basic.
Yeah.
I tell people, and I always argue with people about this. So the third Tom Holland movie, if they did not have OG villains and heroes come back, that movie would have sucked so bad. The only reason that movie works is because of nostalgia, and that is a very dead horse to beat, because the idea of multiverse, everyone's forgetting Spider-Man, but everyone who knows him is coming here, and it's it doesn't work. It doesn't work if you just have other actors come in and play Spider-Man and play all the villains, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. The whole story is just what? This is so stupid. This makes no sense. That movie, if you take out all of the actors that are nostalgic from it, the plotline makes zero sense. It is the least Spider-Man movie of all three of the Tom Holland movies. I think the first
Feels more like
Tom
a
Holland
Doctor
movie.
Strange movie. Than
Yeah, the first Tom Holland movie is the best Spider-Man movie for Tom Holland. Every other one after that is
Wait, that one's
so
Homecoming, right?
not. Yeah. they're so not Spider-Man because the first one is Tom Holland, Spider-Man, fighting another villain who is not some galactic threat, but he's like a street level villain. And then it's the funny personal problems of like, oh my gosh, it's my girlfriend's dad that I'm fighting on prom night, you know?
Mysterio villain is so good though. Like Mysterio is such a great villain. I feel like.
I think it was good, but I didn't think Jake Gyllenhaal's representation was actually very good.
I just like the concept of like, oh, I'm such a cool, like I'm a good guy, come from another planet or universe or whatever he came from, and then he's just a villain at the end.
They're
I just
beating the
love
dead
that.
horse of the twist villain.
Twist villains, I think they get tiring eventually. The only reason, okay, actually I'm going to lead into our question about why does Marvel suck nowadays, and it's because they don't let their villains just be villains anymore.
Yeah.
Every villain has to have some like crybaby story, like they're on America's Got Talent trying to get the golden buzzer. I swear, like it's always so dramatic and something about like diversity and inclusivity about like they're actually a good guy, but they're also not. Like no one's letting bad guys just be bad guys anymore. There hasn't been just a bad guy since like Thanos, and even then Thanos was like they tried to make him vaguely sympathetic, and some people were like Thanos was right, but like I don't know. I think all of the villains now are just
right.
like
You need to go to a psych ward or something.
real. Like name a single new age Spider-Man or like movie where the bad guy is just always the bad guy and stays the bad guy. Even in Ant-Man and the Wasp, like Quantumania, they bring back the old bad guy to play a new villain, and then that villain turns into a good guy again. It's like, what is... Just let a bad guy
Also, that
be
CGI
evil.
sucked in that movie.
That movie just sucked in general. But
The first Ant-Man was so good, though.
why do you
Yeah.
guys not like modern Marvel other than just woke?
Well, the CGI sucks. Like, I'll be
True.
honest. It's been... Like,
Marvel is just money laundering at this point.
Yeah.
There's no way they're actually spending that much money on these movies.
No, they're not. Like that one scene where Natasha's little sister in the Black Widow movie gets blown up off the thing.
Oh my gosh.
That
One of
part's
the worst
funny.
CGI
Dude.
moments.
That looks terrible. Like it looks like an India film where they, you know what I'm talking
Real.
about.
Real. It's just
And
a
then,
green screen.
I
I hated that movie because I used to watch the Spider-Man animated shows on Disney XD.
XD,
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Ultimate
They were
Spider-Man?
great. Yes, those ones. And Taskmaster was one of the coolest villains in all of Spider-Man and all of just Avengers in general. And then in that
They
movie,
made him a woman.
well, okay, it wasn't even that it was a woman. It was that it was like, it's like, oh, it's this brainwashed robot girl that also you blew up like 20 years ago. I was like, what is
what?
this plot, man?
Yeah.
Like, this is so not accurate. Just let Taskmaster be a bad guy who's just very good at what he does. Like, I was like, you're ruining a perfectly good villain
I think the one
for no reason.
Marvel movie that's done things right in the past couple of years or past year was the Deadpool 3.
Deadpool 3 was good.
I feel like
They
that
just-
wasn't really. I mean, Disney.
Oh,
it wasn't Disney though.
It wasn't
I
Disney.
mean, it was kind of Disney.
It was Disney enough to where they made jokes about it, but
Yeah,
it clearly
They just said, suck it,
it was
Fox.
not as Disney as it could have been, you know?
Yeah.
it was.
But, you know, they just let the villain be a villain. Like, what's her face? Charles' sister. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bald chick.
Yeah.
She
They
just
made
was
her-
a bad guy.
They just let her
Mhm.
be a bad guy and not
Mm.
have some dumb story behind it. It's
Yeah.
just is what it is. She killed her brother in the womb. Goes that. Now,
True.
um,
She did that.
and then Deadpool, he's just comedic relief. And then they brought back the heroes and made them look cool. The CGI wasn't terrible. And, you know, that's...
Also,
think-
it brought in the new characters, like like or not new characters, but like, I guess it redid some old
I don't think
characters.
there's ever been a... No, there
There
has
ha-
been retarded.
There has been
I
Gambit,
bet
but they
there
kind of brought it back, and hopefully it can add more to.
I
what they make.
liked Deadpool 3 because some people could try to make the same argument that I have about Spider-Man 3, about Deadpool 3, where it's just like, oh, if you took out all the nostalgic characters, it wouldn't work. But I disagree. I think the movie actually makes sense within the realm of Marvel
Mhm.
because they get sent to the like TVA like trash heap, right?
Right.
And like,
Mhm.
so it actually has genuine story. We're like, oh, we're actually relating this back to Loki.
Because Deadpool, you know, he's traveling around
Yeah.
different universes or dimension, whatever you want to call it, multiverse. And then TVA is like, nah, you can't do that. And then they bring him back, try and lure him to do something, and he's like, heck no, I ain't doing that. And then, I know this is really bad explanation, but
Well, I think
it makes sense.
even if they had any other, if they had gotten like John Krasinski to play Human Torch, right? That would have still been funny. He would have still been
John,
Krasinski. He's like
No, he
Jim from
played-
The Office. No, I know, but what I'm saying is that
didn't
like
play Human Torch, he played
I know,
Mr.
but what I'm saying
Fantastic.
is if he did, like they could have had any other male actor play Human Torch in that movie, and it still would have been funny. It still would have been actually good. You know,
Yeah,
they
but
could have.
made Chris Evans play it.
I know it was funny because it was Chris Evans, but it's not like the entire crux of the movie was the nostalgia of old characters.
Yeah.
Right. Like they could have done any other actor, and people would have complained about them just doing. They should have just done old actors, but the movie still would have been good. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I actually enjoyed Deadpool 3, and it also was just very funny. Because like they could have any Wolverine play too. Like they could have done a lot of things for Wolverine. And it still would've
No,
worked.
you got to keep Hugh Jackman.
I know. Again, it's like it's better that it's Hugh Jackman,
Till
but it's
you're
not
90.
only good because it's Hugh Jackman. So, yeah, I think Deadpool 3 is good, and also it's the first Deadpool movie I've seen. I haven't seen the other two.
They're really inappropriate.
Honestly, it's
Because they're not
the
that
only
good.
one you really need to see. I mean, the other ones are,
They're very inappropriate.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that one, 3 is bad, but 1 and 2 is
Could be way
worse.
worse.
Okay, 3 was watchable with,
It was just jokes. There was no scenes.
yeah.
My parents came and watched with us.
Exactly. There wasn't any
Mm-hmm.
awkward scenes,
Yeah.
you know.
It
The
was
other
good.
ones,
I think they Disney-fied it enough to actually be a good, enjoyable watch.
yeah.
Because I've talked about this with people, like, a movie can be dark, but it can't be all dark. Because if it's, like, constantly so dark that it's not enjoyable, then it's just miserable to watch.
Unless you're making it a horror movie or something.
Yeah, like, I guess
Even
if that's
then,
the
there's
intent
still-
of the movie, that's fine. But if you're trying to make a movie that's, like, genuinely supposed to be a good movie, it should be enjoyable to watch. It should
Yeah.
not make you feel uncomfortable in your seat at the theater, you know? Because that's not a fun feeling.
Yeah.
You know? Unless you're going for that express purpose, like
Watching a
horror movies.
Minecraft movie.
feeling. Yeah, favorite villain is Steve from the Minecraft movie.
Villain?
and-
Hero Brian?
I mean, sorry, Hero, and favorite villain is Malgorga, or whatever her name is.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Galgorg. I don't know.
No one remembers,
Because no one cares about her.
but it's still peak. That's a fire movie. Sorry, my throat hurts.
Should we move on to our final
How far
question?
We're running for like almost 40 minutes. All right, bet we can start a final question.
Final question was, how do superhero storylines kind of relate or call back to biblical scripture stories, or biblical stories and people? That's our last question.
I'm trying to debate if I want to make a joke about is Invincible Jesus or not, because he just gets beat up all the time. You know?
No,
No,
he is
he's
not.
He's not. Okay, I think
You can make a comparison between Superman and, like, obviously doesn't come close. Jesus, no diffs. But
yeah. If we're power scaling right now, Jesus wins. It's no diff.
but we're talking
Looking
about like
back.
how how storylines match up basically.
Yeah, I think it would be inaccurate to maybe not like entirely inaccurate, but it's harder to reflect like ancient stories, like especially Jesus's story, to modern superheroes, because no one does that, and that's kind of the point, is that like the reason why Christianity and Christ is set apart from every other religion is because no one thinks that a hero who dies makes sense,
Right.
Like everyone thinks that a villain wins,
But he comes
or,
back.
a hero always wins. A hero always like just succeeds over evil, and then they are conquerors. You know, so the idea of a hero who dies for the sake of those
But
who
still
he's
win.
come
Like,
to
he
save.
dies, but still wins.
Dies and he wins by dying. That doesn't make sense
Yeah.
to people, but that's the point. Is that in 1 Corinthians, in the first chapter of 1 Corinthians, talks about how the wisdom of Christ is folly to the Jew, or a stumbling block to the Jews and folly to the Greeks, meaning that even the story and the idea alone doesn't make sense to those people because they don't understand it until you actually experience the love of Christ. It doesn't make sense. Like it is countercultural. It's counter everything that we know. Like it doesn't make sense until you take the time to step back and actually understand the meaning behind it. But we can relate modern superheroes to other characters in the Bible. Maybe I won't call them heroes from the Bible because there's only really one protagonist and it's God. But when you look at like Judges, you know, there's so many characters in that are both, they have a purpose that God has set them apart for, but they're still human enough to, like Spider-Man, where they have personal problems and they have personal issues and weaknesses and powers, you know. Like when you look at like the story of Samson, I feel like is one people are like biblical superheroes. Samson is like the Hulk and he's like really strong, but also he like is the exact opposite of what he was meant to be. Like when his mother promised to the temple that he would be, I forgot the word for it, but like there's a specific devotion in Greek religion, or not Greek, Jewish religion, about like he'd never drink wine, he'd never touch anything dead, he would never cut his hair, like all these things, right? He does all these things, but he's still with the Holy Spirit until he breaks all three of his rules, right? That guy was horrible. Like Samson, he was a womanizer, he was constantly sleeping around, he was a horrendous human being if we're looking at his story objectively as far as like the sins of his life go.
Yeah.
But even in those sins and in those struggles, he's still considered one of the judges, when honestly Samson was almost worse than some of the humans, or like not humans, other people at the time, you know? So I don't know. I think when we're looking back at characters, we don't have to be like, well, none of the characters are like Jesus, because no one's like Jesus, and that's kind of the point. But there are definitely other biblical characters, biblical stories that are similar to modern stories that we see, you know?
Yeah. So what superhero relates to Samson? Or is it similar?
That's a good question.
You could say Venom, kind of.
Venom.
I don't know. Because he's not really a great person.
The anti-hero.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how that
I think
would relate.
so. Okay, one thing. I'm gonna go on another ramble here for a second. There's this thing, this author. He wrote it in like the 90s and then revamped it again in the 2000s. It's this idea called the hero's monomyth, where it's this idea that like every single popular, like famous story of a hero and villain, good ones at least, follow this same pattern.
Yeah.
That is basically just retold in many different ways because it reflects, in a way, ancient stories like Christ, like the story of Christ, where you have a character who begins as a normal person. They're given a call to a greater destiny. They often reject the call, and then eventually they join the call and they go on this great adventure, and they face these very particular different trials and difficulties. And then there's this period that's referred to as like the cave, where it's like the death of the old character and a resurrection of sorts of a new character, where the character comes back and is like redeemed and made new.
Kind of like where Aquaman goes in the movies, where he goes into the center of the earth and then comes back with the suit on.
Yeah,
Kinda.
like I always think it's a very easy story to tell with like Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
right? Where he starts on Tatooine. It's May 4th. We got back around to Star Wars. We got there.
Yeah.
Anyways, he like starts on Tatooine. He gets this call to adventure because he meets Obi-Wan, and he kind of refuses this call, and he doesn't really is cautious and doesn't want to do it. So like he joins this call and he goes on these adventures, and then the cave of sorts that is referred to in his story is like, you know, remember when he's on Dagobah training with Yoda, and he goes into the cave and he sees like that hallucination of Darth Vader. You guys remember that part?
I think. Oh yeah.
And he kills Darth Vader, and the mask opens up, and he sees himself inside Darth Vader. It's kind of that reflection of like the realization of like that Vader was a Jedi just like he was, you know, a long time ago. And
It's kind of the same, not storyline, but same idea as Invincible and Omni-Man
yeah,
in a way.
it's not, and like that story is also pretty easy to draw parallels between that and like Lord of the Rings, you know, or with like Harry Potter. Like they
Mhm.
all kind of follow the same idea where you have like a chosen one character who realizes that being the chosen one isn't that great and has to
Kind of sounds like
overcome
Jonah.
difficulties.
Like
Yeah.
being called to do. He got called to do something, and he's like, "No, I don't want to do
Rejecting
that."
the call.
Heck nah.
Yeah.
And then he learns a lesson.
Right.
Gets swallowed by a big fish,
Yeah.
and then
It's
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure the in the original monomyth, I probably could just look it up and tell it more accurately, but the start is like the call to adventure, the rejection of the call, and the meeting of the mentor, and then the answering of the call, where like obviously Jonah's called to do something, rejects that, and then he meets a mentor, which is really just God. He reconnects with God in the
God
belly
showing
of the
him
whale.
like his power at
Yeah.
kind of what he can do.
He's reflecting to Jonah like, hey, so basically you can't run because I'm God, and
Yeah.
I told you to do this thing. And so he finally answers the call, begrudgingly,
Mhm.
admittedly, not.
He still doesn't really want to do it.
Doesn't want to do it, but he does it. Yeah, and he kind of emerges from the whale 3 days later, which is parallel to Christ. Not that he is Christ, but as a parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then when he goes on and he accomplishes what he was originally called to do, you know, and it's that reflection again of like the whale being the cave, where a character goes through that big transformation moment, you know, where they have to accept both the power and the responsibility, you
Mhm.
know, and the difficulty of actually following through with that, you know. And I think also another people like Jonah is a good example of like denying God's call, but
Mhm.
did you know the story of like Gideon, where he has the fleece, and he's like, okay, God, if the fleece is dry and the grass is wet, then I'll know this is what you mean, and then the fleece is dry and the grass is wet. He's like, okay, but if the fleece is wet and the grass is dry, then I'll definitely know what you mean. Like he's testing God about this thing that God has called him to do, and it's not as obvious as Jonah is, where it's like that rejection, but it's that testing of God and being like, okay, is this really what you
Like
meant?
how powerful are you, and like
yeah,
how
like prove just a little more evidence,
Questioning him.
and then I'll believe it. Yeah, it's that subtle doubting that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. You know, when you get that call from God in any moment to do a thing, and you go, he'll make it more obvious.
Yeah.
He'll make it easier if this is the way he wants, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's not like God promises things to be easy. He just tells you to do things, whether you like it or not sometimes. And usually it's for your own growth and goodness. You know,
Mhm.
like Gideon went on and did good things for God. But he had to overcome his doubts and his fears and learn to trust God and trust God's call more deeply than other people would. And I guess that you could say that relates to like Spider-Man in a way, where it's that like wanting the power but not wanting the responsibility.
Mhm.
Like he wants to just have the powers and be a kid at the same time, you know? Or like with Miles Morales in the newest movie, where he, like everyone's saying, like having a figure in your life die is part of the job. But he wants the power, but he doesn't want the responsibility and the consequences of the power. You know, it's kind of the same thing where he wants what is being given to him without having to give anything back, you know?
Kind of goes into what our sermon was about today. It was mainly about money, but one who is, what was the first part? It's like person who holds on and doesn't give is met with not being given anything, or I don't remember the specific word. You remember?
I know you're kind of saying.
Is it Second Corinthians?
Corinthians.
Yeah, we're in
That we're
second 9, like 1 or not 6 through something.
6 through
And then
15.
then it's like one who is generous and who gives will receive, or who will reap the.
Yeah, I think he summarized it by saying those who receive joyfully, or those who
Give
receive joyfully give joyfully, or those
Yeah.
who give joyfully receive joyfully, you know?
vice versa. Yeah.
Sorry, my throat's hurting.
Why are you guys looking at
You
me?
gotta talk. You gotta talk now.
I gotta talk now.
Any other parallels you can think of?
Trying to think of
Think-
other
Maybe not-
biblical characters.
Maybe not parallels, but the difference between the story of Jesus and most modern day superheroes is, I mean, you call that one of the biggest ones was like the hero losing to win or dying. But another one is, I think most mentors or people that they look up to, like the main main hero, aren't really that great of people. But the person that Jesus looks up to is God, literal perfection and creator of all. And it's makes you realize that not every hero, there isn't a hero that's really perfect. There's only
I think the parallel to see is that the reason that Christ was set apart is because Christ strived for perfection, and he was perfection, right?
Yeah.
Like Christ had no flaw and had no error. But when it comes to humans, every human character you see who has to interact with God's power in some way in the Old Testament, particularly when you're looking at like the characters in Judges is a very easy one. Like all of them have flaws and weaknesses and make mistakes. Even people who the Bible tells us are reflections of God's own heart, like with David.
right.
People who seem to be that perfect thing at first and then end up falling short, you know? And it's actually for the goodness of God, because in the weakness of men, the strength of God is shown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's from...
And Jesus wasn't. He didn't. What he did was not easy for him. Like he struggled to do everything that he did for us, but he didn't fall, or he was perfect. Simple as that. Who are you texting over there?
I'm trying to find a verse.
Just
This is a good verse to summarize the episode with. I'll save it for a bit, but...
I guess I kind of on that is like, because you're saying how Jesus struggled, but he didn't like ever fail. You know, he didn't like ever lose it all. You know, like
Right.
lose, but like a lot of like I guess heroes, like they will struggle and then they'll come back, of course, but they will end up kind of failing almost.
they'll sin is the right,
Yeah,
but
and
they'll
they'll come back kind
they'll
of.
come back. Yeah.
Like God did, God came back.
God did.
God did.
Where's that from?
I don't know.
Is that just
I
an
don't
inside
remember.
joke with
No.
Chick-fil-A people?
No.
No, it's definitely
No,
a thing out there.
That's a thing.
I don't know.
So what was
Is it
the?
a DJ Khaled thing? I don't remember.
That sounds like something.
It
you'd
is.
say.
It is.
I think it is a DJ Khaled thing.
It is.
They
Well,
ain't
so
believing us. God did.
What was the verse?
I'm gonna save it.
Yeah,
I'm
for the
gonna
end.
wrap up the episode. With
Okay,
that.
okay.
I'm trying to think of other. Like, what you guys think? Like, is there anything as a character related to Moses, like a superhero or superhero?
I think of Obi-Wan.
Because they're both old.
Yeah, that's what I get. I don't know if there's actual
know.
any.
I mean, it's kind of hard to
Parallels.
relate for some.
Yeah, some of them are just like too specific
Impossible
in a way,
to, like-
you know. Well, I think Moses, if we had to make a relation to another character, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about TMNT. No, he was a leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had to lead all of God's people through the desert, you know, and they were screwing up a lot. You know, he had to put up with a lot of nonsense, and he had a lot of patience for a long time. You know, and he had to control the urges and the sins of the people so much, to even where he went up on the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments, and then he came back, and the people had already fallen into sin in the short amount of time it took him to just go up the mountain and come back, right?
Mhm.
And even after that, God still allowed them to go into the Promised Land once they got there, right? Like, all of that was fine, but it wasn't until Moses had finally snapped when the people asked for water, and he was told to command the rock to give water, and instead he struck the rock with his staff. Right when he finally let that anger loose and broke his final, like it was like the final straw piece of hay to like break the camel's back, and he strikes the rock, and then it's in that moment where he becomes a part of the people who will never see the promised land. Even though he worked so hard for it and he worked so hard to make the people he was leading good, he can't do anything to make the people good. Right. I think that moment of weakness was him thinking, why is everything I'm doing not making them better? Why are they still complaining? Why are they still struggling? Why are they still sinning? Because he thought that he was the one doing any of the work. When in reality, it's not anyone doing the leading. It's God doing the leading, making the change in the people. And that's the change that actually occurs, where we might have some level of human responsibility, but at the end of the day, it's still God's sovereignty that lets everything happen, right? It's not that humans make things happen. It's that humans are a part of God's plan to complete what he has accomplished, and usually I'm just complicating it,
Yeah.
But even when humans fail, that's still part of God's plan, right? That's why it wasn't until Moses finally broke that they really weren't allowed to enter the promised land, And even though they had made huge mistakes before and had fallen into those urges to, to follow idolatry and such, it wasn't until their very leader, had fallen that the real punishment had came, And so, but all that was still part of God's plan, And if Moses had trusted God in that more, he might have found that to be a more successful leadership than he had on his own, In the same way where, like, Leonardo he's trying to control, Mikey's craziness and Raphael's violence and all this stuff. But in the end, he can only do so much. He can't change the people he's leading. He can only lead by example and be the best he can, And that's kind of the same we have a call to for all the people we meet in our lives, to be Christ-like to those people. Not because our Christ-likeness is actually going to change the people, but because our example draws them closer to God, who makes the change,
Yeah. It's not us changing people, it's us pushing them to be changed.
And, like,
Getting them closer.
I think also it's also going to be related to, like, Joshua. We just went through Joshua a lot at church. That leadership, anytime he made a decision apart from God, it went very poorly. And there's so many examples of heroes who are like the leaders, right? Like you have like Captain America, and even Captain America was supposed to be like he's like the captain, he's the Avengers Assemble guy. Even in his leadership, he made mistakes, and it split his team apart, and it caused a lot of chaos and a lot of violence, amongst people he loved and wanted to make better. But it's all about knowing where human responsibility ends and God's sovereignty begins, It's not that far.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can talk about Invincible again. My mic is so
I
dusty.
don't know, where's the Batman and Joker storyline fit?
In the Bible?
What about, like, not for that you're an answer, but what about David and Goliath? Is there like you think there's a hero and villain comparison?
I mean, there's Bane. They kind of
Goliath-ish. I think Spider-Man and maybe like Rhino and stuff.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man's a kid, right? I think that's
Right.
what makes Spider-Man so unique, is because he's just a kid.
Yeah.
He's just like a teenage kid, and he's
I love when the villains find that out. They're like,
right. They're like
We've been-
beating up a kid this whole time. I'm getting beat up by a kid. And that's like the real realization.
well, that, and they're like, I've been trying to kill this kid.
Mm.
That realization, they're like, now they feel bad
Yeah.
about what they're doing. Anyway, back to
Spider-Man. Is that a good?
I mean, I could kind of see that, because it's like kind of like the small, like, at least in that picture where it's like a small, like a little kid, against a freaking giant
Yeah.
Rhino character. I don't know though. It's like it's hard to compare exactly, But like you can only
Yeah,
get so
there's-
close, you know.
There's
for
only so
most.
many exact comparisons you could make. There's not really any exact comparisons you can make, but
Yeah.
it's the parallels of like what are the aspects that biblical characters have to face that characters within superhero stories also have to face, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then
The whole
by proxy,
hero
what do we
arc.
even have to face, you know,
Yeah.
as Christians who are also part of God's story, you know.
So weird. It's funny. You think of like the Marvel and DC universe and people how relate to that, and then like that's just of this world, and that's part of God's plan. I don't know. It's weird. Very intricate.
Yeah, it's like when you read Ecclesiastes and it says there's nothing new under the sun, you know, and you look at these stories and you think, if there's something new under the sun, where did these ideas come from? You
Right.
know? Like, how could these things be? But that's why these parallels are so interesting to me, is that like you see these aspects of characters from the Bible that are reflected in modern stories. Like even, I will say it, Invincible and Christ, right? Like a hero that is beaten up, that
Mhm.
loses, you know, and not just like
Gets the
moderately loses.
Gets the crap beat out of him.
Like
Like this close to dying.
crucifixion is not even just like, oh, he was executed. It's one of the most violent and painful and humiliating forms of execution and torture that existed back then and even today. That like there's very few things that we can relate to just how bad crucifixion was, you know. And it's, I think Invincible does follow an interesting version of a more human, a more like our job as Christians in a way, like to be a reflection of Christ, where we aren't necessarily called to be people who like are conquering people by violence and by killing
Right.
necessarily, but we do know that we're going to suffer for Christ's sake, and that being Christian leads to suffering, you know, and it might not lead to you literally physically dying, but it will lead you to constant personal struggle and feeling beat down every single day until you get to the point where you have nothing left, you know.
Yeah.
And in Invincible, it's like you have to ask yourself, like, what even is the point for Mark to get up at that point? You know, like when he is beaten to an inch of his life, like how does he still get up? How does he still survive? You know, and when we ask ourselves that question, like when we feel beaten up to the point of death, like what do we lean on? Like what keeps us going? Because there are so many people who have gone through life and gotten, you know, beaten to the inch of their life, and then they give up, right? Like suicide rates are higher than they've ever been, you know. When people don't have a thing to get back up for, then they don't get back up, you know. And so you have to think how we respond when we are on the ground bloodied. Like who are we going to call out to, right? Because it's got to be someone. Like if you don't get up, if you don't call out to someone, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Like you can't just magically get back up, right? Not like Adam and Eve.
What's your bat symbol thing? Like, what are you calling out to? You know?
Yeah. When the villains show up, like who's your bat signal, right? Because in the world, right, people might say money, or their own power, their own body, or what job they have, or how many friends they have, you know, like, but all those things are temporary. They all fade to dust. They all fail you eventually, right? Like
Even family.
there's no amount of worldliness that makes up for someone who needs God, you know. So
Yeah.
to ask an obvious question, what do you guys get up for, right? Like,
I get up because, like, I get up for my family. because I can't imagine putting them through, like, losing me, if that makes sense. So that I don't know, basically stops me from doing anything, or keeps me going.
Yeah.
That's a better way to say that.
Because there's more to giving up than just like suicide. That's not like the only answer people go to. People resort to alcoholism or drugs or sex or like anything that will numb the pain of having to go through difficulties and trials. You know? Like there are so many ways you can give up without dying, you know, but all of those things are easier to go to than actual perseverance and determination, you know.
Yeah.
What about you? What gives you the hope to get up?
Honestly, just like life. I'm trying to. I don't know. Like, I feel like I know, but I don't know.
You can give the church answer. Jesus.
Well, I think always is yes as Jesus, but it's also just like having a good life. I would say. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I guess I'm enjoying. No, that's not a good way to put it.
You don't want to. I can't read your mind, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's like, I mean, to say it's like multiple aspects, like how you were saying, like family. I mean, friends.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple things like that. But I don't have like. I don't know, like a good way to put what I'm trying to think or what I'm thinking.
You still have plenty to live for. Is that what you're saying, or?
I think it sounds like you know, contrasting what seemingly the world seems to believe, that a good life should just be handed to you. That you know that if you want to make a good life for yourself and for others, the only way to make that happen is to get back up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like that good life that you were striving for is not going to come to you magically by not doing anything. You know, you have to get back up. You have to keep trying until you get there. Right. Like, just because you stumble one time doesn't mean you like can just not complete the trail. Like, you can't hike up a mountain and just fall on the first step and then pretend like, oh, I should just be at the top now.
Yeah.
Because I hurt. I struggled. Like, you have to struggle and you still have to do the hard thing, you know? And does that relate to you? Does that reflect?
Kind of. I don't. I'm trying to put this into words. What I'm trying to say.
I just call it the Cecil.
It's Cecil!
What about you, Jack?
This
What do you
kind of
think?
This kind of adds almost to the church answer, but also kind of what I'm trying to think of is like, it's like even if it's a bad day or if it's a good day, it's like I know God's just gonna provide. So like getting up, it's like I know. Even if I'm going through something bad right now, I know the future will be better. So it's like knowing that as long as I keep trusting into God, like trusting God, like it's gonna be okay. So it's like I can wake up. I wake up because I know everything's gonna be okay. I think that's my final answer.
That's a good answer. That's good. Yeah, I think like the only like reasonable answer at the end of the day really is that it's hope, right? Like the only hope we have is just to hope that today sucks, tomorrow will be better. You know? And it's like at the end of the day, if you give bad more weight in your life than you give good, then your life is going to suck, right? But hope is saying that the good will always outweigh the bad. That every good day weighs 7 bad days, you know? So you can have if you let one bad day be the worst, if you let that be an anchor that pulls you down, you know, it's like that's going to destroy you, right? It's a lack of hope. It's a lack of appreciating and having thanksgiving for the good, you know? And if you spend too much time thinking that goodness is all you should have or all you want, then you're probably spending too much time praising the gifts instead of the person who's giving the gifts. Where if you want more of the gifts, you don't say thank you to the gift. You say thank you to the person who's giving you the gift. That you have to appreciate every good day and say that every single good day that happens will always weigh more than every bad day that happens. Because even if there are, like, if you got to the end of your life, have you seen those memes that's like, me when I get to the end of my life and I see my stats, and it's like how many miles I scrolled,
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
gosh.
if you get to the end of your life, and even at the end of the day, you get to see your leaderboard, your stat board, and you had more bad days than good days, you can still have a happy life if you appreciate the good days more than bad days. Right? It's all about mindset and perspective. And if everything is just like material, if everything is just stuff, then if your whole life is more bad days than good days, then you're going to see a bad life, right? But if you see beyond the veil of the material and say, the bad things were good for me because they made good days happen, because I learned a lesson from that and I got to move on and I got a chance to succeed.
Right. Dude, that relates to like my parents being divorced. So much, like a lot of bad, but like so much good kind of came from it. Like there's so many good days that came out of that one bad day or like bad time.
Can you give some examples? Like how do you see your life now in a better perspective than before?
I mean, I feel like because for a while I thought like, damn, this sucks, because it's almost like not like God like had a curse on me or something like that, but almost just like the why is this happening to me kind of thing. But now as I've seen like how much afterwards, like how much God had just provided through that, like I mean meeting you, like the church I go to now, the friends I've met, I mean the people I've met, the things I have right now. I mean I'm blessed to have a house, family. I have a car I can drive. I just like God has provided so much, even though that one, I guess, bad thing that happened.
Yeah.
So
It's really good.
yeah.
Still a lot of good that came from it.
Exactly.
Like I wouldn't be like, I don't know where I would be right now if that didn't happen. I mean, I'm not saying I want it to happen, but like I guess it's also just built, I guess, character too.
Yeah. It's just character building. That's when I bully you guys.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like, it's the seeing the bad as good, right? Because if you only ever see bad as bad, you won't learn anything from it. Like when I first moved up here, it was like the worst day of my life. My parents said we were moving away from Eugene. It was like my life was over, bro. I thought everything was downhill for the rest of my life. I thought I was cooked, and because all my friends that I knew, everything I'd ever known in my entire life, which was not very much because I was like 13, was from where I lived. Like the place I lived was the crux of my entire life. Every person, everything I'd ever been exposed to was from that place, right? And so the idea of leaving it only seemed bad. Like everything that could have possibly happened from that was bad. Because this thing was a bad thing, it was going to lead to more bad things. But now, like 6 or 7 years later, after we've moved away, I realized that that was the best thing to ever happen to me. Because everything that I have now, everything that I wake up every morning and thank God for, only ever happened because I came here. Because my family moved, because we went through that hard time of saying goodbye, is the only reason I got to say hello to anything new. And say hello to the good things that God gave me here. My best friends, my house, my amazing job, my beautiful girlfriend. Like, all these things never would have came to me if I hadn't gone through those couple hard days. And because of that, when I look back on that thing, I don't think about the times when I was, like, sobbing in my room, crying, like, mourning all my best friends who I thought we were going to be friends for life. And we were going to buy a mansion and have Nerf battles and all that stuff because I watch YouTube. You know what I'm talking about?
We're doing that? Oh.
We're doing that? But, like, that's how I felt in that moment, right? It was the saying goodbye to every hope I ever had. But it was, now that I look back on it, I don't think about those parts. I think about realizing, oh, shoot, this is amazing. I look back on that with rose-tinted glasses where I say, this is actually a really good thing, and I'm so happy it happened, And I think that's exactly what hope should be. That's exactly what Thanksgiving is looking back on bad and saying, thank you, God, for the bad. Because if you could say, if at the end of the day you can say, thank you, God, then you're going to find joy in that. If you can have genuine thanksgiving for the things you have, and you can say, God, I'm going to get up, and I'm going to keep moving, because even though this really sucks right now, it's probably for your good. Because every other thing that's ever happened in my life has never been just for bad.
I think of the song "Move" by Toby Mac, where it's like, move, keep walking. The Lord ain't finished yet. Move, keep walking.
Yeah.
Got you through this. And then,
I feel like we always come back to Toby Mac.
I don't know. He has good music,
He
dude.
does.
Well, I always think like I went to that Forrest Frank concert recently, and one of his songs, his newest songs, is called "No L's." I'm like, this is so modern. This is so Gen Z, but
His songs aren't like that.
it's very But I was like,
But-
let's be really no L's, not a single L, L-less,
Elvis?
Elvis. But like, it's not actually about not having L's. It's about saying no to the bad and saying
Saying no to the L's,
Yeah.
basically.
like you can't lose if you don't let people let you lose.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Bars.
Bar.
Clip that. Like, the only way you can call anything a win is when you can stand up and say that was a win, you know? Like, I can look back on good days and say, that was good.
yeah.
But I can also get up at the end of a bad day and say, that was also good. And it's all about perspective, right? And the only reason I can make that perspective change is because I have God. And because I have faith that every other bad thing has turned out for his good. So this one is too. You know?
Mhm.
That was a very good example. I like that. That was really good. Any examples of that? Like things you thought were going to be horrible and turned out to be really good?
I'm thinking.
There you
What's
go.
ringing at me?
No.
I'm thinking.
No, it's like I don't know. I mean, I've never moved. I mean, I have moved, but I don't remember that because I was 2 weeks old. But, like, I've been in the same house for 18 years. And maybe 16. I don't remember. Been up here 18. Like, I haven't moved. I think one thing that I thought was going to be bad and it wasn't bad, but it was kind of annoying sometimes, was having my auntie and grandma live with us. It was, in the moment, wasn't the biggest fan because it's like I'm 16, 17 years old driving my auntie and grandma around. But in reality, it was something I didn't want to do, but had to do it anyway. So it kind of taught me just do it, you know? Not copyrighting Nike for that.
Just do it.
But just suck it up, Buttercup, do it. That's kind of what I got out of that. I love them both. But having them live with us having grandma live with us since 2020, and then my auntie was living with us since like 2018. So it's been like 7 years of us not having the normal household, because it was just, me, my two sisters, and mom and dad. And then when auntie came along, it was fine. I mean, she was, I'm not gonna talk too much on it, but it was all right. And then having Nana, because there's a lot of past stuff, but my dad, he couldn't really say no to having them live with us. Not like he didn't want them to live with us, but they had nowhere else to go, really. So
So when you look back on that, you don't see like the annoyance of like, oh, I have to go do this thing. You see more, oh, I got to serve these people that
Yeah.
I never would have had the opportunity to do this serving and to learn these lessons if I didn't like just do it. If I didn't have the opportunity for them to be here. And like now you do a lot of things every day that you don't want to do. But the ability to do things you don't like to do and then doing them anyways is a skill that is rapidly dying in our culture.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have that. They don't have the ability to just do things that they don't want to do. Like when we're at work, it's like no one likes breading. Everyone hates breading, honestly. But there's a few people, I mean, not everyone hates it, but like a lot of people dislike it. There's a few people who can just say, I'm going to do the thing. I don't like doing the thing, but I'm going to do it. And those people are the ones who are the most hardworking. They're the most respected, I would say. You know, people who they just do it. You know, they just do the thing, and that is like, it's a very valuable character trait to have in this day and age, and it makes you both a valuable worker and a valuable person. You know. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, probably can. Yeah.
Okay,
We got things to do, places to be.
We have people who are waiting for us an hour ago.
Twice already. Sitting here.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up with 1 Corinthians 1:18 towards the end of the chapter. I thought of this because we were talking about Christ. The story of Christ doesn't make sense, right? Like, to our culture, the idea of being someone who gets knocked down and keeps getting back up doesn't make sense to our culture. We only want good, but the idea of someone who does bad or lets bad happen to them for good doesn't make much sense. And 1 Corinthians 1 says, "For the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is power from God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, it pleased God through the folly of what we preach to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs, and Greeks seek wisdom. But we preach Christ and Christ crucified, a stumbling block to the Jews and a folly to the Gentiles. But to those who were called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For consider your calling. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were from noble birth. But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even things that are not, to bring nothing things that are, so that no human might boast in the presence of God. And because of him, you are in Christ Jesus, who became to us wisdom from God, righteousness and sanctification and redemption, so that, as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord."
Amen.
Amen to that. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will continue trying to make more episodes.
Hopefully once a month.
Hopefully
maybe
more
once every
regularly.
2 months.
If we can
maybe.
get once a month, that would be a good starting point. Then
Yeah.
once every 6 months. So,
But we are starting to get into the busier seasons.
yeah, summer might be a little bit more awkward. We might have some episodes where maybe one of us is missing. If like some of us are on vacation, we'll have a guest on or something. I know Jacob wants to come back, so
Yeah, I know Keem maybe would get on.
we should get Keem going.
We should get
There's a lot of
Keem
people.
going.
So, thank you guys for watching. Have a great week. Happy Sunday. It's Sunday right
May
now.
the 4th be with
May the
you.
4th be with you.
Even though I don't think this will be
it's
uploaded.
definitely not coming out on May 4th.
It'll come out
Today's May
Revenge
4th.
of the 6th.
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah. Have a good one, guys. Thank you for watching. Follow us on Instagram. We're starting Instagram soon.
We will be starting Instagram. I'll be posting clips.
If that doesn't happen, I'll cut that part out. If
No,
it does happen,
will
I'll put the handle on screen. So, God bless you guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
All right. Good.